All right, my man,
What's up?
Nick. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Great, man. How are you?
Wonderful, man. Wonderful. Nick Cavuoto in the house. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
I'm just sharing this on my feed, man. So bear with me a moment. And yeah, there we go. It's shared.
Cool. Cool. Well, thanks for joining me today, man. I appreciate it. You know, relationships are rocket ships. That name came from you, bro.
Yes, sir. That's right, man. I remember very vividly
You were the
exactly where
first
I was sitting in a restaurant when I came up with that concept.
you were the first person. Well, let's dive into that actually. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So it was in, I think, 2018 or 2019, somewhere around there. And I was at a mastermind with Mike Kim. And I just remember like looking around and going like, this was the first time I was a part of like a mastermind type of group or like a entrepreneurial, like, kind of collaborative, co-creative group. And I just looked around and I was like, wow, the people that you have in your life will take you to places that you never thought imaginable. And I just said, I don't know, it's like relationships or rocket ships. And it stuck. Like it stuck so much. I've had people be like, you have to write the book before somebody else takes your term and does it. Yo, I lost your audio, bro.
When we first were chatting, and we were talking through like what was important to me, and you were just kind of asking me questions, and then you dropped that on me, and I was like, it just hits different because I was giving scenarios and situations, and you just kind of summed it up into just a very simple concept.
Yeah, man. I'm good at
As
that. I've learned that I'm good at that, which I love. Like, and I love I can appreciate myself for that. Yeah.
well, messaging by design, right? I mean,
There you go.
there you go. But it was so interesting to me because I was giving all these examples, and right after you said that, it was so clear and so easy for me to go back and find more and more and more and more and more examples, right?
Mhm.
And in my life, but also how I've helped others. So it's a two-bladed sword, right? Like you can lift people up, they can lift you up,
Yeah.
And it's so important and yet so simple. So I appreciate you bringing that term into my life, and I appreciate the man jumping on and chatting a little bit about this relationship. So thank
Yeah,
you.
man. And remember, and I tell everybody this, if you hear me say something, take it. It's yours. What my go-to is for resonance. Like I want to say things that are going to impact people on a deeper level or help them articulate something that's, in their heart, but they can't get it out. And so everything that I do comes from some divine sources. And I'm just kind of open to that, to what God's doing in my life. And so if you believe it, steal it, run with it, take it. That's what I do, man. I'm a conduit of heaven. I'm just a transmitter. So I'm just pulling this stuff out of the ethos and run with it, bro. Do it all day, man. All day.
Let's go. Let's go. So Nick,
Yes, sir.
give us some examples of in your life how some relationships have been rocket ships. Like, you hear me talk a lot about we're one conversation away, right? From
Yep.
changing our life. It's the underlying tone of Impact Effect 23, which we got coming up here in Nashville. And it's just so important to me. And as I've been doing these lives, I've heard so many amazing stories, right? Like, oh, well, dude, I went to this dinner and I met this person, and this person introduced me to this person, and now I'm business partners, and now I got on a jet. I never thought I'd get on a jet, and this and that, blah 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 blah. Tell me some of your experiences, man. Tell me some of your pivotal, important relationships that have just been rocket ships. But not only in business, I want to hear about life as well, because I think that's where it matters most. And I think they can be transferable because it's
Mhm.
typically concepts or typically opportunity. So share with us, man, what's two relationships that have been massive rocket ships for you in your journey?
Yeah, man. Well, I'm just going to share about you in my life because it's actually really pivotal. And I know that's not where you were leading. And at the same time, like I actually want to express to you how critical and important and influential your presence has been in my life. I think that's something that everybody could say about you, Jim, is that your presence is meaningful. to the people that you're around, to the people that you serve, to the people that you have gathered around you. I had moved here in, June of 2022. I didn't know a soul. So like I moved here, I have one buddy in Hendersonville, but besides that, like I didn't know anybody. And so here I am just kind of working it out, getting the kids in school, like, just trying to figure it out. I came from when I was in Denver, it was as an entrepreneur is very isolated. It's a kind of transient town, like, and everyone kind of stays in their own pockets and everyone's either talking about retiring or moving. So coming to Nashville was very, very different. But when I met you in February, man, it was, an important moment for me. I remember Doug, who introduced us, said, like, I think you're really going to like this guy. I think you guys are like on the same path. Like there's something unique. And from that meeting that you and I had, there are so many opportunities that have come because of that. You were like the first friend that I had here in Nashville. And I mean that. And you will always be like in my world, like one of my greatest friends, one of my greatest contributors in my life, because you were the first person who I met here who invited me to do something, significant. And you said, hey, why don't you come out to the event? And then you're like, hey, why don't you come speak at the event? And that really kickstarted everything. Like everyone who I look around in my peer group now, from Sean Kaplan to Nick Lauer, to even parts with like Amanda Banks and like the continued involvement. I met her at AlignCon, but from AlignCon is how I met you. Like it's all part of the same infrastructure. And that was because of your investment in my life. That was because you made a decision to have one conversation with me and come to my office and talk with me and then be like, hey, dude, we should do more together. Let's see what this looks like. And it's been huge, man. Like so much of what I'm creating today came from one conversation with you. And I'm willing to bet you that there's like 100 other people who would line up behind me and say the same thing. And so I don't know. I think the things that are most meaningful in our lives often come through when we least expect them. And so I didn't expect anything out of our first meeting, except for just hopefully to meet somebody who was up to something and someone who I could celebrate and encourage. And what I found was an incredible friend. I would say one of the best friends that I have, and someone who's a confidant and who is responsive and who's helpful and who celebrates the people that he cares about. And he always creates opportunity for others to do their greatest work and to give their greatest gift to the world. And so you are a stellar human being. You have a sterling reputation. And I just think you're overall just an incredible guy. And I thank you for taking that meeting, for just taking the time, because all of our time is very precious. It's the only non-renewable resource on planet Earth. And for me, you gave me time to just be with you. And that was incredibly meaningful and has proved to be one of the best decisions of my life. So that's that one. You're still muted, bro. I know you're trying to shout me down. You're muted, homie.
I know. I was not expecting that. So thank you, Nick.
You're welcome, man.
You're gonna make me figure up, bro, over here. But and just to respond to that, you've been pivotal in my life as well. And I look at that conversation we had as just the ice, just the start to what is possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course, there's opportunity to connect you with people or align you, but like you've given it back so much to me as well, right? And I think that's what truly makes a rocket ship, right? Like you can have the fuel, right? I can give you the fuel, Nick, but but that just gets the rocket ship to go, right? Who's going to drive that rocket ship? You need two components to it.
Yeah.
I think, giving opportunity to you giving opportunity to me, us speaking on stages, you helping me. I mean, man, you helped me message with the messaging for the conference, right? Like I told you, here's 5,000 things that I want to do. And you said, where's your heart? And I poured my heart out to you, and you helped me put it in the right messaging and words to use, right? So like, you've been extremely important in my life and a major rocket ship, because not only did you help me in business, but you've helped me in my personal life, right? Finding that alignment, doing the human design stuff and really understanding where I need to be, and just asking those questions that amplify where my heart is and where my feeling and my soul is, because I never was asking those questions, right? And then you get me thinking, but then you advise as well. So I appreciate you, brother. It's been an amazing relationship, and I hope it continues. And I hope to continue to pour value into you and give opportunity and collaborate and do more stuff together, right? I mean, it's so important when you have someone that isn't just detracting from your energy, but amplifying and adding it times a million. So I gotta keep this ride going with Mr. Nick over here, bro.
Take the jumper cables of life and just hook them up to you, man. Yeah, dude, 1,000%, man. And I think in the frame of life, to answer your other question, being an entrepreneur has been the greatest path of spiritual and personal development I've ever gone in my life. And I truly feel like that's what it's here for. It's here to invoke us to make a decision to pursue the highest version of who we are, because you can never outgrow your work. That's what I love about whether someone's an individual contributor, a coach, a consultant, a real estate agent, like whatever it is that you're doing, a lawyer, a doctor, whatever. If you're primarily an individual contributor, if you're a genius or an expert and you're helping people solve a problem, your business capacity will never grow beyond your personal development ever, and or spiritual vision. That's my idea, because I want to be a spiritual billionaire. I know if I get there, everything here will be taken care of. And so just my pinpoint of where I'm headed and what I'm up to and why I'm doing what I'm doing, my creative contribution to the world, whether that's in problem solving or art, whatever it is, when I put that all the way out into the distant future and I go like, that's my mecca, that's where I want to get to. That's my targeted point, is making a contribution to the world, leaving an imprint that I believe is meaningful. Then the pathway of the business is just the vehicle. It's the vessel. It's the thing in the middle that gets me from point A to point B. And I know all the miracles in life happened in the middle of life's circumstances, right? So it's a guaranteed win. I've already won. I'm just on the path now. And that gives me a great sense of confidence and assurance. And I had a mentor in my life, Tony Grebmeyer, who still is a mentor in my life, and I collaborate with his business. What's been really special about how we found each other was during COVID. I had a conversation in a Facebook group in my community. I was just like, hey, if there's anybody here who wants to jam together and just kind of figure out how to solve some of the unique challenges we might be facing, just comment in the thread or whatever, we'll hook it up. And I got 8 business owners from my neighborhood to all sit together and collaborate. And this dude changed my life in so many ways. We ended up going on 150 days worth of 5 a.m. walks. And we only missed one day, which was Christmas Eve, where I told him I need to be with my family. And that was our principle of family first. But otherwise, we walked every single day. Every blizzards. This was in Denver. This is blizzards out, negative, wind chill, whatever. We didn't care. And he taught me in life the power of commitment. The power of doing what you say you're going to do at such an insane level, because I had him at my door every day at 5 a.m. sitting there waiting. I wasn't going to leave him out there. I was going to honor the commitment he made in my life. And so in life, entrepreneurship has been the pathway both to my connection with you and also the personal and professional development that I have with Tony and finding a mentor. It's been everything. It's the central point, because again, at the end of the day, if I want my business to be better, I have to be better. True. And that's just something that I truly believe in, and I always will.
I mean, discipline and consistency and some of the characteristics you just described with that relationship, there's overlay in everything you do in life with those terms: quality characteristics, core values. I mean, I think consistency is one of the most powerful things, especially in an actual relationship, right? If you break down a relationship, and Nick, I can call you if I'm in the weeds, I'm in the shit, right? I'm having a day, but I need you to be consistent in picking up that call or pouring into me when I need it, right? So a relationship can be great, but if there's not that consistency when you need to lean on a relationship, then what is it really at that point? It's not, because you're in times of need. that's the best time for a relationship to be helpful to you, right? Like, but also, how do you stay consistent by giving to the relationship instead of gaining, you know? And that's I think where like I struggle with a lot of relationships today. I feel like I've given a lot and I've, you know, helped and I've connected, and I struggle sometimes when I ask for help or to gain from the relationship, right? Like, you're a rock star at this, or you have a group, and I really want to just let people know what I'm doing in your group. Sometimes I struggle with that in the side of the relationship, right? How do you ask that? But the reality of it is, if the relationship's strong, the other person on the side should want to help, you know?
Yeah, totally, totally, absolutely. It's all comes down to intention, and then it goes from intention to focus, right? And from focus, then it goes to, I think, generosity as a principle. And so, from an intention standpoint, I have a belief that the people who are in my life are for me immediately. It's my number one belief that I have is that the people who are around me, they're for me. So why would I have a struggle asking someone for help who's around me?
True.
I wouldn't, right? Because I just don't entertain relationships that are not the types of relationships that are foundationally in co-creation. Co-creation is just like a marriage. It's not 50-50, it's 100-100. And you have to be around people who are co-creative in nature. Otherwise, it starts what's called the drama triangle of life, right? Where you show up as a hero because you want to save someone who's a victim, right? So it's like Spider-Man has to have someone in trouble. And what happens a lot of times, and it's actually even in the story, that victim becomes the villain. And that's just where people just take and take and take and take from you. And then when you finally say, you know what, I'm done with the taking, I'm going to create a boundary, then they go, how dare you? And so when you have a true co-creative connection, I think the number one indicator, and you slightly mentioned this earlier, the number one indicator is, does the relationship give you energy or take energy away from you? If the relationship gives you energy, then you know that it's co-creative in nature. So as long as that happens for a long enough period of time, right? People are good at, fake it till you make it, but you'll really know who your homies are, who the people are really for you, not what you do, not trying to get something out of it, but truly the ones who are for you. You'll know that. And I think secondarily, if someone has good roots, like, there's someone in your life, and maybe that's a friend or family member or whatever, it's someone you've been connected to for a long time, sometimes they just need to be repositioned. Sometimes you just have to like take a step back from it and go like, okay, there's something about this scenario or these constant negative interactions that I have to shift. And so you take on the onus of yourself and you say, hey, I need to reposition myself. Hey, so let me just lay this out, and here's what I'd like to see, or here's how this is impacting me. And you take the onus on you and say, like, how can we now move together in the right direction? And most people are very, very willing to do that, especially when you don't shame and blame, but you give people an idea of how you might be able to do things different from your own perspective and giving to the relationship. So co-creation is everything. This is why, like, in anything that I've started building in my life or business or anything, everything's based on shared results. Everything's based on like, how are we doing collectively? Because I think the world wants to milk us, but what we need to find are people that we can build things with that are heading the right direction, that are going to produce a more meaningful result. And so that we can have shared success. And when it hurts, we can share in the pain and high five each other and say, just like a sports team, like, what the hell are we going to do to make it right? Everybody's got to cover the bases, but after that, like, what are we going to do to take this to the next level? So that's just how I see life, man, and how I see business. And it's taken me a little bit through life's challenges and circumstances, to kind of like take the blows and get back up and then say, okay. But as our buddy Les Brown says, the good news is, if you're on your back, at least you can look up. And if you can look up, you can get up.
It's powerful. It's powerful.
Yeah, man.
I keep thinking in my brain, like, setbacks stack you up for a comeback. Right. So it's like, okay, because dude, I've had a lot of setbacks the last couple of weeks. And like, now I just have this energy where I'm like, dude, I'm coming back, baby. Like, this week's going to be amazing,
Yeah.
But I had to switch that mindset piece, because I'm like, man, I'm getting crushed. Boom, boom, boom. And it's not even business stuff. like that's what, like, at my age, at 34 years old, as of last week, business stuff doesn't even, like, it still affects me, but like, it's not even like, I don't even blink anymore about it, like,
The
because
best way to transmute that energy too, Jim, when it comes, and I think this is valuable. I think you and I have spoken about this briefly, but I think it just benefit people who are listening, which is just say thank you. Just say, you know what, this is happening for me. This is a good thing. Watch how quick life shifts. I had a what was it, last year before, I had a dude send me a demand letter after I did this whole project and I over delivered. I was totally in the victim villain, hero victim villain drama triangle. I was just trying everything to just prove myself. And then I give it. And then the dude is basically like, oh, sorry, on a year-long project, you were 3.5 hours late. So basically, I'm just going to demand that you send me everything back now. That's a taker. That's somebody who just is not operating with the right ethics, right? And the concept to me in that situation was that, like, wow, look at my come from versus where I'm here now. And at that moment, I looked at that scenario and I remember it vividly. And that's where I started making this decision. Life had punched me so many freaking times in the face between life, business, situations, circumstances, frustrating things, whatever. I just finally said, like, enough is enough. This is like beating a dead horse. So I said, this is actually a good thing. And then I just felt different. And then I said, wait, like, this is happening for me. And then I said, wow, if it's happening for me, it's a good thing. I can say what? I can say, thank you. You know what? Thank you. This is actually teaching me a very, very valuable lesson to not give my best to people who will never appreciate it.
Yep.
This is teaching me a very good lesson about, it's more important what I say no to than what I say yes to. It's going to be a very important lesson about co-creation and how I show up in the world and what I choose to create, and how monetization, that stuff takes care of itself. So as long as you're chasing the meaning, those are the things that, like, those moments, those crucible moments, remember, the pain doesn't go anywhere. It either rests on your shoulder in an attempt to crush you, or in reverse, you can use it as a catalyst or fuel. So just say thank you, no matter the circumstance. God, thank you. I know that there's something that's going to come out of this. Hindsight's always 20/20, bro. It always makes sense later. And look back in your life, you'll see it. Every situation and circumstance, you always learn something valuable from it. It created and embedded a deep change within your heart that you wouldn't want to have removed. So now when I get the left hook from Mike Tyson to the face, I just go like, this is happening for me. It's not easy, but we know this. Sometimes the easiest things are the hardest to do. And it's just the pathway of life, man. It's embracing the suffering. What we resist will persist. The pain won't go anywhere. Just accept it, say thank you, and then ask yourself, what's the next best step?
So that sparks a question for me prior to that situation. So
Yep.
Talk to me about what you do for, like, mindset manifestation. So, like, you're talking about, okay, this bad thing happened, right? And this is how I deal with it going forward. But what are you doing on the front end to manifest the right things? And then when those things don't happen, how do you look back on those situations? Like, for me, obviously we can't control the future to an extent, right? Or we may in the next 2 weeks with an AI bot. But how do you ever look at some of those setbacks or those negative situations and said, well, maybe I thought this idea and that's why it happened, or maybe it was manifested, or, I was worried about this, so I spent so much time worrying about it, so it didn't happen, and then it fucking happens,
Mm-hmm.
Like, talk to me about that, because, like, I've been trying to clear the negative out of my mind, so it's not even an opportunity, right? I'm giving it no energy. But you have worries, you have real things, and as much as I, know that I need to surrender, and I know that there's a bigger plan, I find myself trying to control things.
Yeah.
And I'm just so curious on how you go about it, because, I know you aren't just someone who just like, whatever happens, happens, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're a smart guy and you have a lot of knowledge and I'm sure you utilize that up in hopes that these X things occur, you know? But is there anything you do on the front end to try to not have a lot of these negative things potentially happen? I mean, you've had a crazy hit last year, bro. Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah, no joke. Well, the first thing, and you said, is there anything that I could do to kind of either change my perspective or look at maybe some of these things, these negative things happening? First of all, I don't assign a meaning to my feelings. It's one of the best things that I do. And this sounds crazy, but this is the only way that you can reduce the emotional pendulum in life that can swing with high variances. So I don't say that things are good or bad. It's not that I don't believe that things are good or bad, but I think I'll give you an example. Why is it that the things that are best for us suck at the beginning, but they're really good for us after? Eat your broccoli, and you're like, this tastes like shit. But after, you're making a healthy choice. Like, it's actually fueling your body. Well, how come the things that are like bad for us at the beginning, ice cream, or feel good for us at the beginning, like ice cream, are actually bad for us in the long run? Deterioration of health and filling your body with sugar and all this other stuff. Like, so it works in duality. Everything has the contrast, the full width of the contrast of life, dark and light, good and bad, and whatever. So it's actually a spectrum, which is just the middle, which is just gray. It is what it is. So I just stopped assigning meaning to the emotion. And that's the first step. So I took a step back. Then the first thing that I looked at, and I just embedded this belief.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Do you feel emotion though? If you don't assign a meaning to it, how do you not assign a meaning to it but feel it?
Because I believe that I am the creator of my emotions, not the victim of them.
Okay, I like that.
So I allow myself to go, I am choosing to feel this way.
Yep.
I am making a choice to be, I call it the poor Nick story. I am choosing to have a poor Nick story right now. And then I'll sit there and go like, well, at least I'm telling myself the damn truth. Because truth, honesty, and integrity are the only antidotes for criticism, comparison, and judgment. So I don't look at good and bad. I look at green light emotion, things that make me feel good. Red light emotion are the things, see what I mean? I'm categorizing them by a color, not a like belief. So the green light emotions are the things that give me, endorphins and happy things. So I go like, some people, they believe in God. I do. That gives me green light emotion. Some people don't. And so that's a red light emotion. So I can go like, okay, well, why do you not? And you can have the conversation. But at the end of the day, I absolutely feel emotions. I just believe that your emotional state should be protected. In the Bible, it talks about like, there where your heart is, your treasure will also be. I have to be stable, consistent, reliable. If I want to control the controllables, meaning if I want to be able to reduce the waves of life, I have to give myself an opportunity to not be so emotionally reactive to life's events. So when life's events happen, I pause and I inspect my belief before I attach an emotion. So yes, right hook, like situation happens. Your physiological response is going to hit immediately. There's no way to change that. So you might feel something in your body and you go like, oh, panic or excitement or whatever. But for most of the time when it's a red light emotion, right? It's like, oh my God, and you're freaking out. Well, then when I can come back to center, stop the thought, drop into my heart, then I go like, okay, this is where I have the opportunity now to assign a belief. So I'll stop and go like, okay, this is happening for me. This is good. And then now what do? You start searching for what's good.
Are you touching your heart to center yourself right now?
Yeah. I drop down. That's what I do. I'll stop. I'll close my eyes. Like if something happens, just go like, okay, stop, drop into my heart. And I just pause because I'm looking for a belief, not an emotion. The emotion, if you ground yourself in emotions, you will always be an emotionally explosive or highly sensitive, emotionally like responsive person, which again, there's nothing wrong with being highly sensitive. Even more so that you need to understand how to ground yourself in the truth, honesty, and integrity. So I tell myself the truth. Okay, This is happening for me. I can believe that. I believe that the people in my life who are coming into my life are here for me. No matter the circumstance, no matter the situation, there are no ifs, ands, or buts about truth. It is what it is. The truth is, this is happening for me. Great. Now, the emotion comes at the end. So now what I do, because I'm the creator of my emotions, when I can assess both parallels, you ever heard there's two sides to every story and then there's the truth?
Yeah.
You got to see one, you got to see two, then you ground and center, and then you can actually address the thing. So I go like, okay, so my emotion on this situation, how I feel about this situation, is it's probably gonna be hard for like a week if I'm gonna choose for it to be hard for a week. But I can turn hard days into hard minutes. So what's the next best thing that I can do with this right now? Is there anybody who I can ask for help? Who are 5 people who I could call and say, hey, this is a scenario situation I'm up against. What would you do in this situation? Immediately, it reduces all the variance and gets you into action. This is what I learned about life's challenges, circumstances, and how our perspectives can shift them. When I realized that there's nothing that I can control except for my perspective, that's what really shifted.
You got my brain's going, dude. I'm running scenarios right now.
I can't control anything except for my perspective on the situation. And when I did that, that's when a lot of this stuff started to shift. But dude, I had to be pushed down into the freaking, little, it's like whack-a-mole. I had to be pushed down and shoved down in that hole so damn hard. I got a lot of grit, dude. Like I pushed through a lot of stuff. And then finally I just said like, it doesn't need to be this way. And so now I catalyze my challenges and I turn them into something that's more beneficial. It's the only way you can get to the next level.
True. See, I think the big difference here is you're actually feeling the emotion, not suppressing it and acting like it didn't happen. And I think for me, for several years, I just suppressed it. It is what it is. Let's push it down here. Let's move forward. Stop being a little baby, get over it, and go. And that doesn't, because I didn't feel it, it almost felt like I just pushed it off for a rainy day when I was feeling like shit,
Yeah. That's what we call life's dumpster, bro. And
True.
One day it shows all back up on your doorstep. And you've probably had that experience too. I know I have.
So let's go. I want to stay on this because it's so important, but 2, for me personally, like I've been trying to practice this, of course, since we've talked. You know my situation. I've had a ton of things happen lately, and I'm trying to understand the core beliefs that I relate to. And I think, what you've told me in the past, like go to your beliefs because your beliefs create the emotion, and
which allow you to assess the emotion with more clarity. Yeah.
So I think, and probably most people who may be listening to this struggle potentially with the belief, right? So I think that's where it starts. How do you find those beliefs? How do you build those beliefs, right? And I think that's where having honest, real, true conversation about beliefs start, and for me, like that's where I'm trying to build relationships with right now, right? Because I want to surround myself with people who have aligned beliefs and core values. So how did you do that? Like, how did you build such a strong belief system? I mean, the reality of it is, Nick, is your kids went through the Covenant school shooting and your belief system got you through that situation. Like, we're not just talking to some random person about a bad business deal here or
Right.
You lost a big client. Like, you are someone that had to have a strong belief system to get through a very hard situation, a very personal situation. Not even your kids, like the most important thing in your life, right? Like how'd you build these belief systems over the years? And did you go to help? And was there people you had deep conversations about? Like, talk to me a little bit about that, because your confidence comes, and this is a friend of a friend. Please tell me if you disagree, but I think your confidence comes from your clarity. And I think your clarity comes from your belief system. And it's so strong, dude, that like I can feel it even though we're on a Zoom. Like I know that your confidence comes from your clarity, which comes from your belief. Do you agree with that? And how did you get to that point?
Yeah, I mean, it does. I think that, yeah, that sequence makes sense. And at the end of the day, like I was raised with a kind of foundational faith system, which helped because I was exposed to like optimism and hope at a very, very young age. Faith. Faith is a currency, as my mentor David Meltzer says all the time. Faith is a currency. So at the end of the day, like it's a modality to leverage. It is an account that you can put withdrawals and deposits out of, right? And so, I mean, primarily in this season of my life, like how I figured this equation out was I met with a Taoist monk, out of all people, who lives in the UK. He spent 45 years as a psychotherapist and then also became a Taoist monk. He's probably in his mid 70s now. And it was a 2-hour conversation, man, that changed my life. And he gave me the equation. And what I realized is the same thing maybe that yourself or some others are running up against, which is, well, shit, I don't know if I really have a map for like what my beliefs are. And so I just went into like, I just grabbed a piece of paper, I grabbed a pen, and I just wrote, well, what do I believe? And the first thing that came in my head was, I believe that the people in my life are for me. I believe that circumstances, situations, life's challenges, I believe that they're happening for me, not to me. I believe that God always has my back. It wasn't some like highly crafted, let me go on Pinterest and figure it out. I leveraged my authority in my life personally, which is an intuitive authority. Like I had to do a gut check on this and just go, I had to kind of almost transmute the truth, like through my pen, but from what was coming up inside of me. And some people, they might go to their emotional authority. Well, what do I believe? And it's more of like a feeling versus a gut response in a way. Some people might get it and it's all logic, and that's okay too. Like it depends on how someone's wired. But for me, it was really simple. As soon as I figured out this modality, I had been through so much pain. I didn't give a crap. I'm like, I'll do whatever it takes to like do life different. And knowing that my beliefs were like a mincer machine that I could just filter life experiences through. I mean, I needed a miracle, dude. And so I just sat down and said, what the hell do I believe? And I framed it this way. The beliefs need to be rooted in truth, honesty, and integrity. The green light emotion, right? Because that's the transit. They cannot be rooted in criticism, comparison, or judgment. That's ego-based consciousness. Truth, honesty, and integrity, that's like spiritual self. That's like I'm putting a lightning rod into the ground that connects me and anchors me to belief, be it faith, be it a higher power. And so that's what I did. And it's not like I didn't write down there like Jesus is exactly who he said he was, or I believe in, everything that Gandhi said. It was just what represented truth to me in that moment. And I think that I just made a freaking decision to write it down. I mean, take mine. I don't care. Like if those things resonate with you on a deep level, that those are the things that you believe, then take them. A lot of people have shared beliefs. The thing is just, do you really believe it? Is it really true for you? And until you know that with 100% certainty, then write down the ones that you think are true, but they better be centered in truth, be it that you're being really, really transparent. Honesty, which is like, this is full level, like honest conversation with someone, right? So the truth is the truth. Honesty is just like being forthright, avoiding suppression. And then the last one is integrity and just checking your heart. Would you say this to your kids? Is this a value you'd instill in your kids? Because if so, then yes. And if not, then no. And so that's what I did, dude. I grabbed a piece of paper and I wrote them down. And so, yeah, man, that was basically like, that was my whole journey on developing a strong belief system. And then it's just repetition. But you also will get faced with a really hard situation of where you'll lean on those beliefs and you'll find yourself going, wow, I handled that 90 times better than I ever have in my life. And then you have throughput because you have evidence that equation is actually incredibly powerful. So the way that I got through my most significant, challenges, I went to 100 therapy sessions. I mean, and I needed to meet with the Taoist monk. I met with him for 2 hours, changed my life. But like, that was just getting me the same information I'm communicating to you today. So now the point is decision.
I'm that person.
What's that?
How'd you get in front of that Taoist monk?
Going through a lot in life and found him on YouTube by watching a bunch of his videos.
Nice.
Yep. It
Love
was
it.
absolutely amazing. So like totally random. Like he's in the UK and Wales. So I like met this dude on Zoom. It was dude, I'll show you the conversation sometime. I recorded it. It was insane. But that's it, man. And you know, like when you start doing that, you'll feel your emotional pendulum slow down. And if it's true today, like it's going to be true likely for a while, especially when there are universal principles or laws that you're establishing. Like I believe that people are for me. You know, like you just inspect life circumstances different. And whenever you hit a hard moment, you just got to have that, you know, top 5, 10 beliefs that you got, and you got to look at them.
Make that
Stop,
pivot.
drop in your heart, and then you roll into the next thing.
Yep. Well, I think you hit on such an important piece, you know, like you've got to truly believe it, you know, and I think in those dark times, it's hard for people to say, this is for me, you know, that's just the reality. But I think if you have that as a belief system, then that works. What if you don't have that as a belief system?
Do you find what gives you the green light emotion, the green light feeling, the truth, honesty, integrity? Because if you don't believe it, then you don't want to have it as your belief, right? And so you've got to find the things that you believe. Now, if someone's pessimistic, you know, another frame is I think, I choose, or I believe. You know, so I like leveraging the I believe one for my belief systems. I also tell myself the truth when I'm in my emotions and I'm handling something wrong. I'm going like, I am choosing to be an asshole right now. I just try to get to the truth as quick as possible because honesty is the antidote for suppression. So if I can get to the truth, I don't have to suppress, because suppression is like you're just burying. We talked about that earlier. The opposite side is being unbelievably honest. And you get honest, you just get it out in the open, and then the thing loses its grip and power, right?
Yep.
So I'll give you an example. Like people who have ADHD, like myself, some people see that as being learning disabled. I see it as a superpower, that I have an incredible amount of energy to balance multiple different things and only give my energy and priorities to things that highly interest me, that I'll be the most successful in pursuing. I see it as a superpower because I go, well, if you're not that, then you'll do something boring for 40 years and call it a life. so it's the same frame of like, it's the same perspective. You just got to look at it from the other side, right? And so that's how I would develop the belief system, is going like, what is not being said here? Like, if you don't believe that everything is happening for you, well, it kind of defines why you might have a daily experience in a certain way, the emotional state, because that's the thing we're trying to shift and protect. So then we go to like, okay, well then what do you believe is true? And you do the inner work to figure it out. And you got to uproot a lot of shit. Like I did that meeting with that dude after 7 months of therapy. So like I was ready to integrate new beliefs. But here's what I realized more than anything, Jim, for me. What wanted to survive more than anything was the poor me story. You know, I had unraveled enough of my story to understand that I got attention when I was in pain as a kid. And it wasn't that it didn't happen otherwise. It's just there's something that was in my subconscious that said, only if you scream loud enough will you get attention. And so then I realized, oh, subconsciously, I would, you know, go into life, and then I was communicating a lot of my life circumstances and challenges, which I knew, like talking about honesty and it, like, right, content creation, 2017, 2019. It's all about like authentic, you know, whatever story. That's why when people say, oh, I'd love to, you know, you should have authenticity in your content. And I'm like, yes, but being real and raw is better than being authentic. Just tell the truth. How about that? How about we just tell the truth? It's a great foundation for it. And then we also can do the benefit of the asking for help. But for me, dude, that's what wanted to survive, because it was such a part of my identity that I didn't know that was there. And I think maybe people picked up on it a little bit and probably other people didn't. But I realized by perpetuating the old story, it was actually giving life to that thing that was sucking the life out of me. You know, Michael Chandler, when I had him at my conference in February, you know, a mental performance coach who was interviewing him, she said, like, so what do you do on the hard days? And he's like, well, I take that like version of me and I duct tape it to a pole in the basement of my mind. And I go like, you're going to stay here and I'm going to go here. Right. And it's a funny example of like how he keeps going and how he keeps pushing through hardship and how he made it through 100 or 600 days of not winning a fight, yet still having the faith and the belief. And now he's going to face McGregor. So like, we have to take that part of us and we have to, in a healthy way, I'm not saying to duct tape it to the basement of your mind, but we either have to confront it or subdue it. And so sometimes it's going back to those life experiences and having a little conversation with yourself that said, hey, I know this is challenging for you right now, but trust me, it's going to be better. I know that you could look back on certain life scenarios that happened, 2, 5, 10, 20 years ago and go like, man, that was hard, but I know that was happening for me. I almost drowned in a pool when I was 5. That was horrible. That was nerve wracking. I was petrified of fear and like from a pool till I was 12 years old. But it happened for me because I developed a persistence, a perseverance, and a grit in my DNA because I overcame my greatest fear when I was under 12 years old. So now I don't have to deal with my greatest fear because I've already conquered it.
Yeah.
My kids have already dealt with the fear of death. What are they going to go do? There's like literally nothing that can hold them back. So when we inspect it and look at it from maybe a different perspective, we start seeing it differently. But Warren Buffett doesn't have a poor me story. So if I want to be successful in what I'm doing in business, I've got to allow that season to come to an end by making a conscious decision to say, you know what? I've dealt with it. I'm excited about it. I can leverage it as something so someone has context on my life. But today is the day where I transmute that power into something more positive. And I stop focusing on the drainers and I start focusing on the drivers.
Yep.
So for anybody who wants to have a good modality to help get out of the funk, grab a piece of paper, make a list. Here's all the shit that's draining me. Here's all the stuff that's driving me. When you've exhausted that energetic enema, rip out the sheet that says, these are my drainers, crumble them up and throw them out and focus on the drivers. Tony Gremmeyer taught me that. It was the thing that got me my biggest sales week that I've ever had in my life in 1 week. Biggest sales week was by identifying the drainers and drivers and focusing on encouraging 5 people a day. That's my sales process. I encourage 5 people a day because it changes me. It doesn't change them. It doesn't mean they buy from me. It changes my heart and how I show up in the world.
Well, I think too, it brings you in a perspective of giving, which makes you happy, which makes you aligned, which makes you operate at a higher self. And when you're operating at a higher self, you're closing deals because you are offering something that you solve a problem, people need it, you have integrity, and you're pricing things in a way where they don't pay you unless they receive what you're willing to give them, right? Like we talked about prior to this call, some of your new opportunities and commission-based and doing it together, you win, I win. But I think that's what really it comes down to for you specifically, because it's how you operate day in and day out. I was watching a movie. I can't remember the movie because I don't really watch a ton of TV. It's really more like my brain hurts and need to like slow down and probably go to sleep. But I was watching a movie and they were saying, and I wrote this down. It was like, what was it? Let me find it. It was like, get out of your own mind. It's a bad neighborhood over there.
Yeah.
Right? Like, don't walk over there. Dude, that's like you tell your friend or your wife, it's a bad neighborhood. Don't go over there. Right? I probably can't say that because I'm a realtor. So, that was you saying it.
Yeah.
But like, don't go over there. Get out of your own mind. It's a bad neighborhood. You're going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, dude, I appreciate you, man. I know we've been on 50 minutes, and I said this was going to be 30. So,
you're all good, man.
Appreciate you, bro, for jumping on and always educating us, sharing your stories, your personal stories, your truths, your realities, your honesties. So, thank you, bro, and thank you for being such a good friend. And I just look forward to watching you continue to crush it, man. I'm excited for your new ventures. I'm excited for what you're building now. And excited to know you and call you a friend, brother. Thank you for spending
time. Dude, 1,000%, bro. And people need to show up. Impact 23. It's going to be a blast. I'll be there. So I'll be hanging. And I know Jim will be there as well. I'm inviting every human being that I know. I don't care if you live in Alaska. You will get an invite from me to come on out. And dude, we're like about a month away?
About a month away. And it's funny you say that. We've got a lot of people flying in. It's actually most of the tickets sold. So I think our local friends are just waiting till the last minute as those Nashville
You always get the most registrations about 5 days before the event. So
Of course, of
yeah,
course. But yeah, we have a ton of people flying in, man. I'm super excited for it. We're about a month away. You know how much I've put into it. So I'm just excited to see the product finally come to fruition and lives change. You know, that the opportunity is there. People just need to seize it, you know?
I'll say this, Jim, and I mentioned this to you, and we'll end on this note. I have never made a bad investment being around the right people. Never in my life. And usually I'm awarded with opportunity or things that I never really knew that I needed. And that's what's so cool about it. I've learned that I'm here to kind of master the unknown, which is through surrender, just going like, you know what? I actually don't know what's going to happen, but I just feel like maybe I need to be there. And at the end of the day, when I'm around the right people, the right things happen. And I think a lot of people miss that. So whoever's in a scenario, you're building and growing and you need partners, or you're feeling challenged and you're feeling the burnout and isolation, well, then get your ass there, quit fucking around, and let's go do some epic shit. Like, that's the type of energy you're going to be around. If people want to love on you and ask you questions and be more interested than interesting, as David says. And, that's what we're here for, is just to create, I think what you've done really well is to create like a space of conversation for people, of intentionality, of true service, of going like opening your hands and going like, how can I serve you? And it's like you're opening up your home to everyone. It's a really beautiful thing. And I know that God's going to award you for that, Jim. And I have just seen that. And as more and more people come on out and more people are now posting videos and the speakers, it's just going to be outrageous. It's going to be so fun. So hope to see y'all there. And I'll be the other dude with the same haircut as Jim. So come track me down.
Let's go. It's interesting you say that, because the people we've signed up, the conversations I've had, like, it's so different, man. It feels different. People are excited. They're like, dude, I can't wait to meet someone. I've got this idea. I just need someone in tech to help me figure it out. Or and these are established, like, 5-6 time business owners. One guy's raising 20 million right now for a company who's looking for a partner. Like, what? Like, the opportunities are going to be there if you put yourself in the position to take advantage.
It's true, man. It's true. Accessibility, availability. Open those hands on up so you have the ability to give and receive. It's a powerful thing.
It's powerful. Thank you, Nick. Thanks for spending time today. I know you can be anywhere else in the world, and I appreciate you spending it with me and our friends on social media.
Honored, man. Love it. Thank you, bro.
Later, bro.
Good, man. Much love. Bye-bye.